another side to the value is that it's now been open over 20 years and over 2 million people have come there. The great majority of those, of course, are non-native people, tourists from all over the world, really. And most of them are meeting a native person for the first time in many cases. And they're learning that these are intelligent people who are proud of their past, proud of the stories of their heritage. And imagine how much good this has done in 20 years of the contact with non-native people about another culture that they really knew nothing about going in, especially on sort of a story that is so far from their own experience. Nobody in the world has an idea what a buffalo jump is really until they come here. And the idea that natives were actually able to pull this off and drive huge herds of animals over a cliff is, I'm sure it's just staggers them, that they come out almost, they arrive almost in disbelief that it happened and walk out hopefully sort of in awe that they've heard the story. And of course we're all really proud of the fact that they're hearing it from Aboriginal guides. And since the day it opened, that's been an insistence of the jump that all the guides are Aboriginal. It's brought a lot of employment for people, and it's brought a great deal of awareness for non-native people about the story of the Blackfoot culture.
I think one of the things I look at is also the fact that the old man is always talking about understanding. If I understand your culture, you got to understand my culture. And I'm sure you heard him nights around the table saying that. And I think Head Smashed In is one of the things that we look at where we talk about understanding. Because if you don't understand each other, then you're further apart. You're more apt to get into confrontation if you don't understand. I think the fact that Head Smashed In brings understanding is important. The other thing you look at is a lot of the tour guides, and I remember when we were training tour guides here at Head Smashed In, these were tour guides that knew our culture. Remember Walter? Walter Crowshoe, he knew our culture, he knew the songs, he knew the stories, he knew everything, but he would never speak about them. He would just stay quiet because he felt that he didn't understand the white man world, and that the white man world is never going to understand his stories. But since you're part of the training when you brought archaeology and the understanding, and he was able to cross-interpretate and parallel, all of a sudden there was spark in Walter. You couldn't shut him up. You can put 30 people, a group of 30 people in front of him, and he can keep going about his culture because he was validated in the Western world, and he knew himself he was validated in the traditional world. So I think those two cross-validation really brought our tour guides together, and I think that's one of the values here at Head Smashed In because of that presentation through our tour guides. And I also remember a lot of times when the people that were involved in working at Head Smashed In, I know stories about the big rocks that were put in there, and they used cranes to put in a rock that was maybe a ton in weight, and the next morning the rock was moved 10 feet over, and all the pagan people that worked here would say, hey, we're not supposed to be here. But they had ceremonies and to contact the spirits, and ceremonies with the old man and the elders that came up, and everything just seemed to start falling in place. And I would say if it wasn't for those ceremonies, I don't know how far we would have got.
I know, and I'm your average white guy in the sense that I'm not steeped in the ceremonial world of Blackfoot people, but I had my own experience with this just when we opened. Literally within the first 2 weeks, we had 2 tourists die here. Both dropped dead of a heart attack. One just out here on the slopes and one down in the parking lot. And the second one, I was doing CPR on this person and rode in the ambulance to the hospital, and the person died. And it was pretty traumatic, And I mean, we're all deeply affected by this. But the Blackfoot staff, to me, it's like, well, geez, that's pretty bad luck. 2 people died in the first couple of weeks. And they said, this is not luck. There's something wrong.
Yeah.
And they said, we have to close this building down. We have to do these cleansing ceremonies and it's going to be all day and we need everybody here. And that's not easy to do in a government building. This is a facility, it's advertised to the public, it's open every day, and there's signs all over the highway. And to just shut the doors and say, sorry, no one's coming in today, you have to go way up into Edmonton government and get permission for that. Well, they just insisted, and that's what we did. A lot of offerings were made. Special people were brought in for that ceremony, and we had smudging and face painting, and we went all through the building with these offerings, cleaning the spirits out. And of course, I'm there as a young man, not really understanding all of it, but taking part in it. And that was 20 years ago, Reds, and no one's died since, so you tell me, I don't know.